Chapter 1. The Mark of Morai. The dust of the Highveld clung to Ziad's tattered clothing as he polished rough granite stones near the ancient ruins of Great Zimbabwe. At 18, he knew nothing of his parents, only that he was found bundled near the Imbahuru Great Enclosure 2 decades prior. The villagers of the surrounding Musha raised him, but his status as an orphan, or Napwa, kept him on the fringes. He earned his keep by guiding weary travelers, weaving tales of the sacred Muwarai and the powerful Mutapa kings. Yet Ziad carried a secret far older than the stones he cleaned. A birthmark, shaped like the head of a crowned bird, located just behind his left ear. It was identical to the mythical emblem carved onto the ancient scepters of the lost royal house. One sweltering afternoon, while clearing overgrown brush from a lesser-known outer wall, Ziad stumbled upon a shallow, hidden chamber. Inside, resting on an ochre cloth, was an object that made his heart thunder, a perfectly preserved carved wooden staff no longer than his forearm. It wasn't the material that shocked him, but the polished stone pommel. It featured the exact same crowned bird motif as his own skin, glowing faintly in the dim light. Ziad instinctively reached out, and as his fingers brushed the wood, a searing heat shot up his arm, briefly eclipsing the midday sun in his vision. The moment passed, leaving him trembling but strangely invigorated. He knew this relic was meant only for him, and that the quiet life of an orphan was now truly over. He wrapped the staff quickly in his sash, fearing what the revered Chief Makoni, the current guardian of the ruins, would ever learn of this profound discovery. Chapter 2. The Scepter of Mutota. Ziad hid the staff, which he now called the Scepter of Mutota after the founding king of the Mutapa Empire, beneath the loose stones of his meager sleeping hut. The wooden artifact hummed with latent energy, and holding it felt like grasping the roots of an ancient mountain. His nights became restless, filled with vivid dreams of magnificent stone cities, drumming that echoed from the valleys, and a man and woman, clearly his parents, who offered a silent, anguished farewell. Ziad realized the scepter was not merely a physical key, but a conduit to the past, capable of unlocking suppressed memories or forgotten truths. His demeanor changed. The quiet orphan now walked with a noticeable, though unspoken, confidence. This shift did not go unnoticed. Chief Makoni, a heavy-set man whose authority rested on stern decrees and a vast collection of cattle, summoned Ziad under the pretense of assigning him a new task. Makoni's eyes, usually dull, now held a sharp, calculating glint as he appraised the young man. "The spirits of the ruins whisper, Ziad," Makoni rasped, his voice low and menacing. "They speak of things misplaced, things that do not belong to common hands." Ziad maintained a steady gaze, denying any knowledge of strange happenings or unusual finds. He felt the cold pressure of the scepter against his back, pressed into him by the wood of the chair, and found the courage to meet the chief's scrutiny. Makoni dismissed him, but Ziad left the main kraal knowing he was now a watched man. The search had begun, and if Makoni found the scepter, Ziad feared his life would be forfeit regardless of the chief's current attempts at subtlety and feigned concern for the youth's well-being. Chapter 3. Flight and the Sentinel. The surveillance intensified. Makoni's junior counselors, men known for their quick, brutal enforcement of the chief's will, began trailing Ziad everywhere, asking pointed questions of his neighbors. Ziad understood that Makoni was not seeking a misplaced artifact. He was hunting a threat to his own carefully constructed power. Late one moonless night, a sharp, insistent rapping at his hut door woke Ziad. He peered through the woven reeds to see 2 large shadows, Makoni's head guards, waiting. There was no time to consider. Clutching the scepter of Mutota, Ziad slipped out the rear window, scaling the low mud wall and melting into the dense brush of the surrounding savanna. He ran for hours, guided only by the distant constellation of the Southern Cross. As dawn painted the sky, Ziad reached the rugged Matobo Hills, a sanctuary known for its towering granite kopes and ancient cave paintings. Exhausted, he sought shelter in a cave system famous for housing the spirit medium Mubaya Nehanda in generations past. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. A woman, wrapped in layers of indigo cloth, her face lined with the wisdom of 100 seasons. She introduced herself as Amai Chiesa, the sentinel of the Muari shrines. She observed Ziad's face, her eyes lingering on the crowned bird mark. So, the time of the Mambo, king, has returned. But the road to the throne is soaked in old blood, and your enemy is closer than the grave. Give me the scepter, child, and let me teach you how to wield the truth that comes with it. Ziad knelt, presenting the artifact, relief washing over him. Chapter 4. The Oracle of Amai Chiedza. Amai Chiedza took the scepter of Mutota and did not merely examine it, she communed with it. For 3 days, she taught Ziad the true meaning of the crowned bird mark. It was the mark of Muari, signifying not just royal blood, but a spiritual covenant with the Great Spirit to defend the Shona people. He was not just an heir, he was the spiritual conduit to the prosperity of the entire lineage. Amai Chiedza revealed the history of his parents. His father, Prince Munemo, was the crown prince, and his mother, Mai Rudo, was the daughter of the powerful neighboring chief Dlodlo. Their union was meant to bring enduring peace to the lands, but they vanished shortly after Ziad's birth. The official story was a tragic accident during a hunting trip, allowing Makoni, Munemo's cousin, to assume the chieftaincy. Makoni stole the crown from Atum Ziad, but he never possessed the spirit to wear it. He sought to destroy all traces of Prince Munemo's line, yet failed to find the infant you. Your mark, hidden for all these years, is the only proof the clans need. But Makoni has fortified his rule with fear, not tradition. You must challenge him in the Dar, court, before the council of elders, not with a spear, but with the painful, undeniable truth of what happened to your royal parents. Ziad, absorbing the crushing weight of his legacy, nodded grimly. The innocent grief of being an orphan was instantly replaced by the burning fire of a dispossessed king. Amai Chiedza handed the scepter back. Go, Ziad. Confront the serpent who wears the royal skins. Chapter 5. The Return to the Dare. Clutching the scepter of Mutota, Ziad returned to the village, walking openly toward the chief's kraal. He requested an immediate sitting of the Dare, the traditional council that included the most influential elders and subchiefs. The council convened swiftly, curious about the orphan's sudden brazen return. Chief Makoni sat upon the stool of power, his brow furrowed with unconcealed rage, his guards positioned menacingly around the perimeter. This is an outrageous intrusion, Ziad, Makoni boomed, his voice shaking the hut's rafters. You are an outlaw, a runaway, and you dare to call a council? What madness drives you, boy? Ziad stood tall, his eyes level with Makoni's, the fear he once felt replaced by the cold surety of his purpose. I am driven by the truth, Chief Makoni, Ziad declared, holding the scepter aloft. The crowned bird mark behind his ear was now visible to all. I come to speak of my parents, Prince Munemo and Mai Rudo, who did not perish on a simple hunt, but were murdered to clear a path to this very stool. The shock in the Dare was palpable. Murmurs swept through the gathered crowd. Makoni's face turned a dangerous shade of gray. The chief's response was a chilling smile that didn't reach his eyes. A reckless accusation, Napwa. You have no evidence, only the ramblings of a disturbed mind and a carved piece of wood. He gestured sharply to his guards to seize Ziad. Just as the guards moved forward, Amai Chiedza, who had appeared quietly at the entrance, raised her hand and spoke a single, stunning sentence that froze every soul in the compound. Chapter 6: The Revelation of Fratricide. Amai Chiedza's voice, usually a gentle whisper, resonated with the power of the Mondoro, ancestral spirits. "Makoni cannot speak against the murdered Prince Munemo," she announced to the hushed assembly, "for he knows the truth that Ziad brings." She stepped forward, pointing a trembling finger at the chief. "Chief Makoni is not just Munemo's cousin, he is his half-brother, born of the same father, but a different, ambitious mother. And the scandal is this: Makoni himself paid the assassins to kill his own sibling, Prince Munemo, 18 years ago. The tragedy was no accident, it was a calculated act of fratricide and treason." A collective gasp ripped through the dare. Makoni immediately jumped from his stool, his mask of composure shattering into 1,000 pieces of pure, murderous rage. "Lies! Witchcraft!" he screamed, reaching for a ceremonial axe. But the shock had immobilized his guards. Amai Chiedza continued, explaining the full extent of the royal treachery. Makoni had found the infant Ziad, but rather than killing him and risking the wrath of the spirits, he chose to abandon him near the holy ruins, hoping the boy would grow up unnoticed and die a commoner. He orchestrated the false hunting accident and silenced all witnesses, assuming the throne when the elders couldn't find the true heir. The crowd, witnessing Makoni's animalistic fury and hearing the details, realized the horrifying truth. The sacred lineage had been defiled by the very man who swore to uphold it. The chief's reign was based on a shocking family secret, a truly scandalous betrayal of both blood and Muari's law. Chapter 7: The Ascendance of Mambo. The Council of Elders, stunned by the revelation and the chief's display of guilt, moved swiftly to restore order. The Dare instantly revoked Chief Makoni's claim to the throne. Stripped of his authority and guards, Makoni was led away from the kraal in utter disgrace, his reign ending not with a battle, but with the brutal exposure of his familial scandal and regicide. The elders then turned their attention to Ziad, who stood firm and quiet, holding the glowing scepter of Mutota. They examined the sacred mark behind his ear, confirming its exact match to the ancient symbol. The spirits, they declared, had guided the rightful heir home. In a ceremony that honored both his parents and the ancestral line, Ziad was presented before the people. His tattered orphan clothes were replaced by the sacred leopard skin and the royal feathered headdress. The elder who had always doubted Makoni's legitimacy performed the final rites, placing the traditional copper neck ring onto Ziad. The crowd erupted, shouting the ceremonial greeting for a new ruler. Ziad, the orphan, was formally crowned the new Mambo, king of the land, uniting the clans under his spiritual covenant. He accepted the scepter not as a symbol of personal wealth, but as the heavy burden of responsibility for his people's future. The ancient prophecy was fulfilled, the royal blood purified by the very man who was discarded as nothing more than a lost boy.